You can't swim. The card stands.
But why? It's my uniform. I have to compete.
I'm sorry, those are the rules.
There is a moment in every athlete's life when the sport stops being about speed, when it stops being about time, or distance, or winning. On a Saturday morning in Vancouver, a 19-year-old girl stood on a starting block in front of 4,000 people. A stopwatch?
O Allah, grant me strength, make my path and my water easy.
And a man with a red card, and was told, in front of everyone, that she did not belong in that pool. She looked at the water. She looked at the crowd. She looked at her hands. And then, she jumped anyway.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar.
Welcome to the Vancouver Championships. Swimmers, take your marks.
I want you to understand something about Amira Khalil before I tell you what happened on the morning of Saturday, March 7th, at the Pacific Aquatic Center in Vancouver, British Columbia. I want you to understand what the water meant to her. Amira had learned to swim at the age of 6 in a public pool in the Côte-des-Neiges neighborhood of Montreal, where her family had lived for the first 8 years after arriving from Cairo. Her father, a structural engineer who had spent 3 years getting his Canadian credentials recognized, had taken her every Saturday morning. Not because he had any particular vision of athletic greatness, but because he had read somewhere that swimming was the most complete physical exercise a child could do. And because Amira, from the moment she entered the water, became a different person. On land, Amira was careful, measured. She thought before she spoke, chose her words with precision, moved through the world with the particular deliberateness of a girl who had learned early that the world was watching her more closely than it watched other girls. In the water, she was none of those things. In the water, she was pure forward motion, all instinct and power, and the specific joy of a body doing exactly what it was built to do. By the time she was 12, she was the fastest girl in her age category in Quebec. By 14, she had broken 2 provincial records. By 17, she was training with the National Development Program in Vancouver, where her family had relocated when her father's firm transferred him west. She was 19 years old now, 5 feet 10 inches tall, lean and powerfully built through the shoulders and back, with dark brown skin and dark eyes that, in the water, seemed to focus on a point several meters beyond wherever she currently was, always already arriving somewhere ahead of herself. She wore her hair tucked beneath a specially designed athletic hijab, close-fitting and hydrodynamic in the deep navy blue of her club colors. Her burkini was the same, navy and white, fitted precisely to her stroke, designed in collaboration with her coach over 2 years of trial and adjustment until the drag coefficient was as close to optimal as fabric technology allowed. She had never once been told it was a problem, until Gerald Pearce. Coach Deborah Sinclair had been working with Amira for 3 years. She was 48, compact and energetic, with short, reddish-white hair and the particular intensity of a woman who had coached the elite swimmers for 20 years and had developed, over those 20 years, a precise and almost physical intolerance for anything that got between an athlete and their potential. She had applied for Amira's competition clearance with the Canadian Aquatics Federation 8 weeks before the national championship. She had submitted the equipment specifications, the hijab, the burkini, the precise measurements and materials, along with the relevant sections of FINA's updated equipment guidelines, which had been amended 4 years earlier to explicitly permit full-body swimwear and head coverings for religious reasons, provided they met hydrodynamic standards. She had the documentation on her phone, in her bag, and in the Federation's own online portal. She had done everything right. She had not anticipated Gerald Pearce. Gerald was 61 years old, a veteran official with 32 years of experience in competitive swimming. He was tall and lean, completely bald, with a short gray mustache and the cold gray eyes of a man who had spent 3 decades applying rules and come to believe over those 3 decades that the rules were the point, not the athletes, not the sport, not the human beings standing on the blocks. He had been appointed chief referee for the national championship 3 months ago. He had reviewed the competitor files 2 weeks before the event. He had seen Amira's clearance documentation. He had formed his own opinion about it anyway. Sophie Nakamura was in lane 4. Amira was in lane 5. Sophie was 19, the same age as Amira, Japanese-Canadian with straight black hair cut to her jaw, slim and precise in her technique, the defending national champion in the 200-meter freestyle. She and Amira had been training in adjacent lanes at the Pacific Aquatic Center for 2 years. They had pushed each other, paced each other, celebrated each other's improvements with the particular camaraderie of 2 athletes who understand that their best competition makes them both better. Sophie had texted Amira the night before the final, "Tomorrow we find out which one of us has been holding back." Amira had replied, "Neither of us. That's the point." The morning of the final, Amira arrived at the Aquatic Center at 6:47. She completed her warm-up routine, the same sequence she had followed for 3 years, the same sequence Deborah had designed and refined through 100 sessions, and was at the ready room at 8:15. Focused and still, the particular stillness of an athlete whose body is already slightly ahead of the moment. She walked out onto the pool deck at 8:47 to the sound of 4,000 people in the stands of the Pacific Aquatic Center. She found her block, lane 5. She stepped up, adjusted her goggles, looked at the water. That was when Gerald Pearce walked toward her.
You can't swim. The card stands.
But why? It's my uniform. I have to compete.
I'm sorry, those are the rules.
He came from the officials' table on the far side of the pool, moving with the unhurried purposefulness of a man who has made a decision and is now implementing it. He was holding a red card. Deborah saw him first. She was on her feet before he reached the block. "Competitor in lane 5, Gerald said, loudly enough to be heard over the ambient noise of the crowd. Loudly enough, Amira would think later, that it felt deliberate. "Your swimwear does not comply with competition regulations. You're disqualified from this event." The crowd noise dropped. Not completely, but enough. Amira looked at him. "My equipment was cleared," she said. Her voice was steady. "By the Federation 8 weeks ago." "My ruling stands," Gerald said. Deborah was beside him now, phone in hand, pulling up the clearance documentation. "Gerald, I have the Federation clearance right here. Equipment code 7, filed February 14th, confirmed February 28th. This equipment was approved." Gerald looked at the phone, looked at Deborah, looked back at Amira. "My ruling stands," he said again. The crowd was very quiet now. 4,000 people in the stands of the Pacific Aquatic Center, and the particular silence of a large space processing something it has not fully decided how to respond to yet. In the stands, in row 14, Amira's father, structural engineer, Saturday morning swimming lessons, 3 years of Canadian credential applications, had risen slowly to his feet. Beside him, her mother pressed both hands flat against her mouth. In lane 4, Sophie Nakamura had stepped off her block and was standing on the pool deck, arms folded, watching. Amira stood on her block. She looked at Gerald Pearce. She looked at the red card. She looked at the water. Then she looked at Deborah. Deborah held her gaze, said nothing because there was nothing to say that Amira didn't already know. Amira looked back at the water. "Are the other competitors disqualified?" she said. Gerald blinked. "No." "Then the race is still happening." "You have been disqualified." "I heard you," said Amira. She adjusted her goggles one more time, rolled her shoulders, set her feet on the block. The starter raised his signal. Gerald Pearce said something, a word, a warning, a further invocation of his authority, but it was lost in what happened next, which was the starter's signal firing and 6 athletes entering the water simultaneously, and Amira Khalil, disqualified, ineligible, officially not in this race, launching herself off Block 5 with the full force of 3 years of early mornings and 2 years of hijab hydrodynamics and 19 years of a body that knew, with absolute certainty, exactly what it was built for. The crowd came to its feet. Not all at once, in a wave, starting closest to lane 5 and spreading outward through all 4,000 people like something physical, like the water displaced by a dive, unstoppable once it had begun. Amira did not hear them. She never heard anything in the water. That was one of the things she loved most about it. She swam the first 50 meters on pure instinct, the way she always did, not thinking about technique, but letting technique think for her. 3 years of Deborah's refinements running through her body like code. She turned at the wall with the precision of someone who has turned at 10,000 walls. She came back down the second 50 with the particular controlled aggression of the middle of a race, where the lactic acid is beginning to speak but hasn't yet started shouting. Sophie Nakamura was in lane 4, half a body length ahead. Amira found another gear. She had known for 2 years that she had a gear she hadn't shown anyone, not in training, not in competition, not in the 200 races that had brought her to this pool on this Saturday morning. She had been saving it, not strategically, not consciously, but in the way that certain things are saved without decision, held back by some interior mechanism until the moment arrives that is large enough to deserve them. This was that moment. The third 50 was where races are decided, where the athletes who have managed their effort correctly pull away from the athletes who haven't. Amira went through the third turn and felt something release in her body, some final held-back thing, and she extended her stroke by 3 centimeters and increased her turnover rate by 4 strokes per minute, and the water, which had been resistance, became something else entirely. She touched the wall at the end of the fourth 50 with both hands, simultaneously, the way the rules required, even though she was not officially in this race. She surfaced, pulled her goggles up, looked at the scoreboard. The time next to lane 5, which was officially empty, officially not occupied by any competitor, read 1:54.32. The existing Canadian record in the women's 200-meter freestyle was 1:54.89. The Pacific Aquatic Center did not go quiet this time. It did the opposite. What happened in the next 4 minutes happened very quickly and in front of 4,000 witnesses and an unknown number of cameras, which meant that by the time it finished, it was already being uploaded. Sophie Nakamura finished the race. She had won it, officially, with a time of 1:55.41, her best ever, and immediately swam to lane 5 and reached over the lane rope and took both of Amira's hands in hers. She held them there, both of them in the water, for a long moment. Then Sophie looked up at the scoreboard, looked back at Amira, and said, loudly enough that the nearest camera microphones caught it clearly, "That's a record. That's a Canadian record, and everyone in this building knows it." The crowd had not stopped. If anything, it was getting louder. Deborah Sinclair was at the pool's edge, crouched down, one hand extended towards Amira, not to pull her out, just to be there, just to have her hand be the first thing Amira reached for when she chose to come out of the water. She was crying. She was not trying to stop. Gerald Pearce was standing at the officials' table. He had not moved. He was looking at the scoreboard with the expression of a man who has applied a rule and watched it become the smallest thing in the room. Amira came out of the pool. She stood on the deck, water streaming from her burkini, her hijab dark and close against her head, and she looked at the scoreboard for a long moment. Then she looked at her parents in row 14. Her father was still standing. He had not sat down since he rose when Gerald Pearce walked toward the block. He was not clapping. He was just standing, hands at his sides, looking at his daughter with the particular expression of a man seeing something he had always known was possible, but had not, until this moment, been certain he would live to see. Amira raised one hand toward him. He raised one hand back. The video, shot on 4 different phones from 4 different angles, edited together by someone who had never met Amira and never would, was online within 90 minutes. It showed, in sequence, Gerald Pearce walking toward the block with the red card, the exchange on the deck, Amira adjusting her goggles and setting her feet, the dive, the race, the scoreboard, Sophie Nakamura reaching over the lane rope, and finally, at the very end, the image that would be shared more than any other, Amira standing on the pool deck, water streaming, hijab close against her head, one hand raised toward row 14. It was viewed 11 million times in 48 hours. The Canadian Aquatics Federation launched a formal review of the disqualification decision within 24 hours of the event. The review concluded, 6 days later, that the disqualification had been improperly applied, that Amira's equipment had been correctly cleared, and that the chief referee's ruling had no regulatory basis. Gerald Pearce was suspended from officiating duties pending further review. The review also recommended, and the Federation's board unanimously approved, that Amira Khalil's time of 1:54.32 swum under competition conditions in a sanctioned national championship event be submitted to Swimming Canada for formal ratification as a national record. It was ratified on a Thursday afternoon. Amira was in training when she found out. Deborah came to the pool's edge and held up her phone showing the Federation's official notification, and Amira stopped mid-length and stood up in the shallow end and read it, water running down her face. She read it twice. Then she went back to swimming. She had a competition in 6 weeks. She had work to do. On the evening the record was ratified, Amira sat at the kitchen table with her parents and ate the meal her mother had made, the same meal her mother always made for celebrations, the recipe her grandmother had brought from Cairo, and her father asked her in Arabic what she had been thinking on the starting block when Gerald Pearce walked toward her with the red card. Amira thought about it. "I was thinking about the water," she said. Her father nodded slowly, as if this was the answer he had expected, as if this was the only answer there could ever have been. Because the water, you see, had never once asked Amira Khalil who she was before letting her in. Only people did that. And Amira Khalil had learned, at 19 years old, standing on a starting block in front of 4,000 people and one man with a red card, that the water was always going to win.